Now let me introduce you to Unit 6. Unit 6, it is all about your surroundings. So in Unit 5, we have addressed certain social issues. Now, the society is a compact one. Now we are going into a wider range. What is that one? Environment. Right? That is, a person, if at all he is developing, he should be fit into the society and also fit into the environment, because these two are the two factors which brings about development in the human beings. So this universe, it is what we learn nowadays is the universe is warming up, right? It endangers life. So is it an automatic affair or is it the man-made thing? Scientists of all the types, they say it is man-made thing. We are the responsible factors for the warming, global warming up. Warming up of global, that is because of we ourselves. And if we go out, we speak, oh, it is very horrible, right? And moreover, though it is not rainy season, we are facing rains. And again, the required coldness we are not feeling, or the greater amount of coldness we are feeling. Why this imbalance in the environment? Because we are going for deforestation. The population is increasing. The man, very what we can say is greedily, he is becoming selfish, and he is just fulfilling his wishes, his needs. Though this world is for every creature on it, we are killing, we are avoiding, we are neglecting other species, and we ourselves growing. In this we ourselves growing, we are not minding how many trees we have cut it off, how many species of animals and birds they are getting extinct. Right? In our last syllabus, last 10th class syllabus, we were having a beautiful two lessons we were having. One is grooming, the other is animals forever. This animal forever, we read that our universe is nothing but a cobweb. And pressure on one of the strings, it will equally be transformed to every part of the universe and it harms. That way he calls. A very beautiful lesson he has given, and also how the species of animals and birds, they get extinguished. That also he has shown how they go extinct. He has shown. So here, these all three lessons, reading A, reading B, and reading C, these three contribute a certain amount of thought to you people into what world we are stepping. Where are we going to? So to evade that, to avoid that, what is to be done? Right? Here in the first lesson itself, that is our environment itself, the lady who has been awarded for her work a Nobel Prize, right? Her name is Wangari Maathai. She is an African native, and she has done something to the peace of the world and for the environment, and so she was awarded Nobel Prize. Environmental activist Nobel Prize she has received. And she has been interviewed by some Japan radio and NHK Radio Japan. And that is put over here to make you understand how important is forestation is. Why forests? Why trees? And how important is the existence of the trees, the plants, the shrubs, the herbs, the trees, the grass, they catch hold of the surface soil. They put the soil together. And whatever water the soil absorbs, that water will be there only. Because immediately after that, there is a bunch of grass, there is a bunch of bush, there is a bunch of shrub, and there is a tree standing. The water which is there, it will be protected there itself. If not, it will be flowing down somewhere where it is combined with some other water. It will be going on within the layers of the earth. So to protect it, to collect it, right, to limit it from its flow, these trees and these plants and these shrubs and these herbs are very much needed. We are cutting the jungles for the purpose of our furniture, wooden furniture. For the purpose of our fuel, we are cutting them away. Right? When it is being cut, that protection is not there for the water. Raining. The raining means the clouds should be stopped by this tree. Not only that, the clouds have to be formed by the evaporation. The leaves, they emit air out, and that emitted air out, it is contained water vapor. So that containing of water within the plant, it disappears when we are cutting the trees. Right? So growing trees, planting of trees, it is a must. People, they do it and they allocate funds for it. But how far they are doing? How far they are free to do it? They are not free to do it. Why? Every day or the other, there is a requirement for some establishment, whether it is a economical, that is financial, or whether it is a playground, or whether it is a school, or whether it is a housing complex, whatsoever. We are occupying a very good amount of land which should have been the forest land. Right? And here, against that, this woman has worked. She had taught the rural people, the tribal people, how important is the planting of trees. They have put it customary in their custom itself, their daily life itself, routine itself, they have put it that they had to plant certain trees. And so she was awarded. Right? Now about Wangari Maathai, started the Green Belt movement and also fought for equal rights for women in Africa. She is the first African woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Read the excerpts from her interview with NHK Radio Japan. Now the question, NHK Radio, how did you become aware of the environment? So awareness is a must. If I am wearing this shirt, awareness should be there why I am wearing it. That is one. Second, do I look best in this? Second, awareness. Does it fit to me? Third, awareness. Right? If I need a shirt measuring 44, if I take 39, you can understand how aware I am about the shirt. Right? That awareness one should have. Then only he tries to look better, and only then he will make his surroundings look better. So the question is, how did you become aware of the environment? From the time we started, we were trying to respond to the basic needs of the people in the rural areas. And people were asking for clean drinking water, for food, for energy, which is mostly firewood, for building material, for fodder for the animals. And all these come from the land. You see, motherland, Mother Earth. Why? Whatever you need, whatever you are, it is taken care by the motherland. So, when the question arises, how do you know, how are you aware of the environment? She answers very rightly what it is. From the time we started, we are trying to respond to the basic needs of the people in the rural areas. What are the basic needs? Poyya medaki, poyya loki. That means if it is a conventional stove, poyya, kattela poyya, kattelu is necessary, right? That is to cook, energy is required. For that we need firewood, and to be cooked, something food to be cooked, right? Those two things are necessary. Water is necessary. Fodder is necessary. Fodder means the food which we collect and give it to the animals. That is called fodder. Our hens, our dogs, our horses, our cows, our goats, and our buffaloes, our bullocks, these are all there. They are to be fed, and that is fodder. All these things come from the land, motherland, right? That is the awareness. You should have that kind of awareness. And all these come from the land. So we knew that what the people in the rural areas were asking for had to do with the environment. The people are asking, what is it one? The basic needs. From where are they are coming out? They are coming out from the land. That awareness should be there. That means whatever you want, you are taking it from the environment. So they did not have those things because the environment was degraded. Degraded. Graded means to go up. Degraded to go down. So the environment is getting down, going down, means less and less and less of these resources of your fodder, your food, your water, your everything. It is going down. So from the very beginning, we understood that we have to rehabilitate the environment. Which shrunk down, we have to lift it. We have to give support. We have to make it stand. That is rehabilitated, to bring it for the good cause. So now we have understood the fallen down so-called environment has to be lifted up. That way we have understood. Right? Now, the forested mountain were the source of water and the source of rain. So when you deforest, you cause a shortage of water and a change of rainfall patterns, and therefore people are not able to get food and water. Therefore, in order for them to have good environment that can sustain their livelihood, it is important to have a government that accounts to them, that protects them, that protects their interests, that is concerned about their lives. Now, what made us feel about environment? What's the question, right? We find the mountains, and they were forested. The mountains, on the back of the mountains, forests grow, the trees grow, the shrubs grow, the herbs grow, the green grass grow over there, right? And that is being deforested. When that is being deforested, we have seen many results. What is that one? The rain, which is caused by the trees, are not being caused now. They are not raining. If at all they are raining, there is no timing. That is, there is no timetable for the environment. It has to rain during this month. It has to rain. We have three distinct seasons. We call and we read. But do we find these three distinct seasons now? No. Whenever it is very hot, we have to call it as a summer season. Whenever we have heavy rainfalls, we ought to call it as a rainy season, that's all. And whenever we feel it is very cold, we have to call it as a winter season. Earlier it is demarcated, the full year has been demarcated. From this month to this month, we face heavy rains. Are we? No. Now if you question, we are not getting rains during that period. We are not having the required coldness in that particular period, and we are not having the required heat and temperature during that period when it has to be. Why all these things? Because of the deforestation. We are cutting up the trees and the rains are not regulated, the environment is not regulated and the environment is not fixed to its timetable. That we have found out. And so we wanted to grow forests. So now, question again, NHK Radio. How is peace connected to good environment? You see, you have been given a Nobel Prize and a Nobel Prize too. One is for peace, the other is for your active environmentality. For these two things you have been given Nobel Prize. So how awareness of environment connected to the peace? Right? Then she answers. Many wars that are fought in the world are fought over natural resources. You see, what we call as a fact she has put over here. If at all there has to be a war, it is for the natural resource. Suppose I myself and my brother, we both are fighting together. It is not a war but a fight between myself and my brother. What for? For the property whatever my father left. Only then we will be fighting. If my father did not leave any property, he is my friend and I am his friend. There is no dispute over there, right? Likewise, for the reason of this distribution of natural resources, there would be wars. Okay. Now, some wars are fought because the environment is so degraded that it is not able to support communities, and so they fight over the little that is left. Second thing again, natural resources means what? The mines which it has. Is it rich with mines or not? Rich with water or not? Rich with other things or not? That means a forest product. With that, this national boundaries were built. Now, when the national boundaries are built, they need not have to war with this nation and with that nation. No. Now, the second question is what? Whatever resources were given in those days, they got lessened. And now, my eye will be always on the other's natural resource. So, I am fighting. Right? This community is fighting with that community. This country is fighting with that country. And this nation is fighting with that nation. Because of that simple thing, environment. Others are fought because some people want to take a lot of resources to control them. They don't have the resources. And they have the control over all other resources wherever they occur. Right? And so there is a war. Always your well-developed countries, Russia and America, they are always thinking about the war. Why? Because they want to control the resources wherever and whichever it is existed in the world. And here America, they too wanted a control over it. You see, very simply she has put. And to keep many other people out. This country doesn't want that country to have a share in this property, in this resource. And so there automatically arises a war. Right? Petroleum is the natural resource which Arab countries have in abundance. Right? And Russia and America both have the eye on it. Okay? Means the complete economy of the world and the reason for the disputes, everything within few words she has put out here. Now, whether this happens at the national level or at the regional level or even at the global level, sooner or later there is discontent. This contentment, I am satisfied. Then I need not have to look into or peep into what other people are doing. What is happening in next door? I don't want to. Because I am not satisfied, I am still feeling hungry. So I will be looking to others' areas, what they are eating. Discontent is the main source for all disputes. Right? So, when the discontent is strong enough, there is conflicts. for all conflicts, the discontent, because he is living well, right? So, good management of the natural resources, equitable distribution of these resources is important for peace. In a line, she has put the complete fact over there. If it is equated, if it is really, that means what we call as a justified resource management, natural resource management, equitable distribution, right? This fellow doesn't get more, that fellow doesn't get more, you get less. No, everybody got equally. Then there is no question of your wars. There is no question of invasion. This fellow will not be invading into that, right? If at all, my house roof is leaking, then what will I do? I will go into my neighbor's house. Is it not? So that is it. If all the houses are the national property, what would I do? I will try to knock him out or send him into this house and I occupy that house. Dispute arise for that only, because of the distribution is not equated, not satisfactory distribution of the resources. At the same time, good management of the natural resources is not possible if you do not have democratic space, respect of human beings, respect of human rights, giving other people dignity. You see, again, there are other factors. If you don't want to respect others' needs, then again the same thing arises. So you have to accept, this community should accept that community, this nation should accept that nation, and this world should accept that world, for whatsoever the resource may be. That is why the three themes are related. What are these three themes here? Environment, resources, and peace. These three are interconnected. So resources are there, they are not being given to others. And environment is very good, and the natural resources are there, they are not equitably distributed. And contentment is not there, discontent is there. Then also peace cannot be achieved. And so these three things are interlinked. That is why the three themes are related, like the African stool with three legs and the basin on which you sit. The three legs, one leg is peace, the other leg is good governance, and third leg is a sustainable management of resources. When you have those three legs, now you can put the basin, which is development. And if you try to balance the stool without those three, it won't happen. Now, she has put an example before you. What is it one? A stool is there and a wash basin is there. Wash basin you want to put on the stool, which has only two legs. Can we do it? No. Right? Two legs stool cannot stand. Either there should be 4 or 3. So she has taken the minimum number, that is 3. 3-legged stool, which is a very commonly called as African stool. Right? And on that the basin has been kept. What is this basin? It is development. To hold this development, there are 3 factors. What are these? One is peace, the second is good governance, and third is sustainable management. Sustainable means which is rightly and smoothly running. Rightly and smoothly running is sustainable. Now, stability we call it as stable government. Now, we all have voted to some party, political party. What for? We need a sustainable governance. A stable governance we want. A continued government. Sustainable is continued. Halfway here, halfway like that. 1 month or so, he is a prime minister, and for other 3 months, somebody has come, and other after 2 years, some more chief ministers come. That is really what I call it is a bad luck for us to have 3 to 4 chief ministers in a tenure of 5 years. What he does, he doesn't know, and what he does, that fellow doesn't know. doesn't want it to do it or repeat it. So a sustainable governance is a must, one of the legs of the stool, and the resources and governing of these resources, and third one is the peace. These three holds the basin of development. Very beautifully she has put over here, though she is an African woman. We have not shared our resources equitably. We have allowed some people, especially those in power, to acquire a lot of the expenses of the majority, and we have also engaged in conflict. You see now, we have not enjoyed our resources, and there were many other people, they have taken it away. It is there in the history of every country. It is not only with India, not only with Africa, not only with some European countries, nothing like that. It had happened, it is happening, it will be happening. That way it is. What is that one? The natural resources were taken away by the rich and powerful countries. Right? And second is to acquire a lot of expenses of the majority. Majority people should have these resources. At the cost of these people, the powerful people, they have taken away these resources. For example, I can tell you this diamonds and the gold, etc., are very rich. Africa is very rich in that matter, right? But people, European countries and the Americans, they have made some establishments over there, and they took over some of the places under the name of we adopt these places. By adaptation, what they have done is they have excavated every important mineral from it, and they left only dust, etc., for the people. So that is the main reason for the non-growth, right? And what we call as imbalance in the environment. That is what she pointed out. And we have also engaged in conflicts. We, within ourselves, whatever is left, to have that within ourselves, we are fighting. That is conflicts. And also we are joining those people, those powerful people who are fighting with each other for our resources. We are joining with them. Thus we have conflicts. NHK Radio once again questions. What was the environment like when you were young, and how did it go about saving it? Now, if at all I know the art, the beauty of art, then only I can comment the nose part of this art is not, somewhat there is some mistake. When can I say? Only when I know it. So she is an environmentalist, right? So she should be knowing what is the right environment and what is wrong environment. So the question is, what was the environment when you were young, right? And second, and how did you go about saving it? Now, why did you go for saving it? Why are you talking about environment and its saving? Question. And now the answer goes like this. When I was a child, which is almost more than 50 years ago, the environment was very pristine, Pristine, very pure and clear. That means very young. We can put pristine means very pious. Chala pavitranga undedi andaniki pristine word we can use. Right? The pristine, very beautiful and very green. Pristine, the meaning has been given here. Very beautiful and very green. The meaning of pristine is that. And now, we were a British colony, and the British government at that time started to clear cut the indigenous forests in our forested mountains because they wanted to establish commercial plantations of exotic species of trees such as the pines from the northern hemisphere and the eucalyptus from Australia. These trees are very nice. They grow tall and they grow very fast, but as they grow, they destroy all the local biological diversity. All the flora and fauna disappeared. So, although we were getting commercial timber for the growing timber industry, we also destroyed our local flora and fauna. You see, the British people, they are always about their commerce, their commerciality. They think about that only. How best we can become rich, that is their thought. When they had come to India, how did they enter into India? They said, our motto is business. We want certain places. What for? To construct our colonies, establishments. We want to do business with India. What is the brightest item? We were having gold mines. We were having our diamond mines. And apart from this, we were rich with cotton and many other, what we call as many other agricultural and non-agricultural things. And what did they bring in to make commerce? When they have taken all the spices, they were doing a very good business, the spices and cotton, etc. Did they stop there? No. They wanted to grow this blue, right? That blue is a plant product, and they have taken some land and they started growing this blue. After when this blue is grown, the land becomes barren. No other cultivation can be done on that land. There you can see, you can read in the history the same thing. Second one, they have introduced tobacco, a commercial product again, a commercial crop. So we are attracted to it. We are doing the same thing. And for one tobacco crop, how much of fertility of the land we are losing? That way we are not having any calculations. We want money and we are doing it. Right? So the commercialization of the agriculture, it has come up with the English people. Not only here, in Africa also. What did they bring over there? This eucalyptus trees. Eucalyptus, you know, Nilagiri చెట్లు అంటాం, Nilagiri తైలం తీస్తారు, right? That is our Jendu balm, etc. are being prepared, made, right? That oil, that trees, they grow taller. The tall they grow, the deep the roots go. Wherever a single drop of water existed in the earth, they take it. And these roots of these trees, they go to any distance in want of water. That means, if at all these trees are planted, say about a kilometer away from your house, okay, the root may come over here and your underground water may be completely exhausted. Thus those roots will be coming, eucalyptus. And equally the second one also, the pine tree, right? From these they make medicines, they want oil, and so they grow it, right? When these timbers fell, when the plants are felled, now you are using the timber. You are thinking that you are gaining, but inwardly you are losing it, right? The land is going very, what we call as, they are becoming wastelands. And when you are cutting up for the oil, you are making deforestation. That are the two things she has found. That is, in the advent of Britishers, our cultivation, natural cultivation died and their artificial cultivation started. Growth of artificial timber started. By that, our complete land has become barren. That is the study she made. And the local flora and fauna, they go off. Right? A monkey should be there in the tree. What kind of tree it wanted? It doesn't want a tree which grows very straight up. It wanted a tree which has many branches and very thick leaves. It wanted. It wants. And now the forests are covered with only Nilagiri and this pine. Where can these monkeys go? They cannot dwell here. They don't have any kind of a place to hide themselves, right? So there, both flora and fauna both are affected by this artificial cropping plantation. As a result, these forests, which were the water towers, were no longer able to contain the water. I already told you, because these two species they drag each and every drop of water from the earth to contain the water. So when the rains fell, the water ran downstream and ended up in the lakes and oceans instead of going down into the underground. When the grass is there, when the trees are there, when your herbs are there, shrubs are there, the water which has fallen over there as rain, it will go sink into the earth, because considerable shade is there. But now considerable shade is not there, because the tall trees, they don't give any kind of your shade, right? In Hindi, a doha is there. बड़ा हुआ तो क्या हुआ, जैसे पेड़ खजूर. The khajur, the date palm, it is a very tall one. There is no use for it. Why? पंथी को छाया नहीं, फल लगे अति दूर. That is, the panthi, the traveler, he doesn't get any kind of shade under it, and nor even the fruit is there. But where it is on the very high position, tall, where there at the top. So it is a useless one. Likewise, this Nilagiri or your eucalyptus and the second one your pine trees, they are useless. For them it is maybe useful, but for our forestation, groundwater levels and water levels, everything, these are useless. Whatever water drop comes, they drink away. And one drop or two drops which are left by them, they will be going down to the streams, and likewise they are going to the oceans. So how beautiful observation she has on the environment, you see. Simply by changing of one plantation, what disaster we are facing, she has analyzed. One thing we noted is that not only did the rain patterns change, became less, but also the rivers started drying up. We lost our local biological diversity. Now, not only that single drop going into the river, and then because of these eucalyptus trees, as I already told you, the roots of which they grow to any extent, they had tried to go towards the rivers, and the rivers are also getting empty of water. They are drying up. If the rivers are drying up, there are many species over there, many species of fish, aquatic animals. Fish are there, tortoises are there, many, and even your amphibian frogs, amphibian your crocodiles, alligators, which are dependent on the much of the water. Where do they go? Right? That way, that biological diversity got imbalance. So that's a lot of damage to the environment. Now, as I told you, that our Gerald Drell, he has clearly called our universe as the cobweb. Pressure on one thread, it is distributed, the pressure is distributed all over the universe. So that is what we have to remember. If at all we are seeing that one of the species is extinct, our time for extinction is coming near. That way we have to think, right? So that is what she put over here. That is why in 1975, at the very first United Nations Conference for Women in Mexico, many of the women were saying, we need food, we need water, we need clean drinking water, we need fodder for our animals. In the very first meeting, United Nations Conference, the women have voiced, they have put a demand. What is it one? We want food, we want water, we want clean environment, we want clean drinking water, potable water, and we want food, and we want fodder for our animals. That is the demand put in the very first meeting. And as I was wondering what has happened. These are things that were there 20 years ago when I was a child. The environment had changed, and that's when I started this campaign to restore the vegetation and to restore the land and to rehabilitate the forests. Now you see, we only know rehabilitation means what? The people who were affected by rains, floods, or earthquakes, or any natural calamity, those people are taken and kept in some sheds that we call as rehabilitation. Right? Now, for the survival of the human beings, we are to rehabilitate the earth itself. That is, the forest itself. If the forest is not rehabilitated, the containing capacity is not increased, then water levels will be like that only. And we will be walking miles together or searching miles together for water, drinking water. That is what she understood. NHK Radio now questions, what happened when you started working with the women? So for this, she started working with the women. Those same women who questioned, who asked, who demanded for fodder, drinking water and food. She started working with the same people, same women. Right? That is, if at all you are demanding, your job is not completed, you have to fulfill the demand. You are the man. That is, if you are asking, you should see the means and ways how that demand can be fulfilled. So that is what she has taken. That is what she has understood. And she put her efforts in that way. And now Wangari Maathai says, well, the first time when I told them, let us plant trees, the women said they didn't know how to plant trees. So I asked the foresters to come and teach them, but they were very complicated. They were professionals. It became very complicated for ordinary illiterate women to understand. So I told the women, we shall use our common sense and just do what we do with our seeds. Women work on the farms. They are the ones who plant. They are the ones who cultivate. They are the ones who produce food. So I told them that seeds of trees are like any other seeds. So if they were to treat those tree seeds the same way they treat other seeds of food crops, there is no difference. I told them to look for old broken parts even and put seeds there. They will germinate and they will know these are the seedlings from the seeds they planted, and we gave them plastic bags to be able to put those seedlings and to nurture them, and when they were about half a meter long, then they could go and transplant them on their farms. Now they demanded it, they are to fulfill the demand, right? So what is to be done there? These people are illiterate people. They know only one thing. What is that one? Farming. To sow the seed, they know. How to grow the crop, they know. They are sowing the food crop seeds and they are getting the food. That they know. And how to utilize that knowledge? First of all, I have called for the foresters. They are the professional foresters. And those people could not come down to the level of these women, these illiterate women. Nor these illiterate women could not go to the high level of those foresters. There is a difficulty of understanding what these foresters are telling, how to plant, how to do plantation, how to plant and how to do plantation. These people do not know. Then what is to be done? I said, what do you know about farming? They have come up with the answer. We sow the seeds. Then I said, take these seeds and sow them. Where to? Because there should be a earmark. This is not the food stuff. This is only for the wood we are raising. That they should know it. So I asked them to bring some broken, unused, old earthen pots. And there I wanted them to sow these seeds. That is, a demarcation is there. This is not food stuff. This is only that which we are going to transplant once again. So when the demarcation has been drawn, the women could able to understand whatever the seedling has come in that earthen pot and in that earth, they could able to understand, yes, this is the plant. I am going to transplant it. So when the plant has grown to half a meter, that is 1.5 feet, then what I said is, go and transplant it in a very what we call say is in a very natural manner, wherever all the circumstances help the plant to grow more. There they put it. That way I have taught them how to sow the seed, how to get the plant, how to transplant it. Now they could able to understand. In the beginning it was difficult, but they soon understand confidence and they became very competent foresters. So I call them foresters without diploma. Once again let me read. In the beginning it was difficult, but they soon gained confidence and they became very competent foresters. So I call them foresters without diplomas. You see, in the beginning, anything, whatever you do, even when you are writing A, the alphabet A, now it is very easily you are writing. But when you started writing, your KG class teacher must have taught you a slanting line this side, a slanting line that side, and in between a sleeping line. Then it is A. When you have first written that, you must have felt proud of your this learning. Likewise here, these women, these were very what we call as a village women, not literate, and they cannot understand. And if it is shown to them, they are very quick to catch. That way what I made these women from very illiterate to a non-diploma foresters. Why? I have taken up their own methods of farming and I have transformed it as an education to them. They learned it and they have become good foresters later. NHK Radio, why do you think they responded so well to your messages? You see, if a kid is there, if I want to make him write A, he may not be writing, though he knows it. Second, if I want him to say some rhyme, he will not be telling. He knows it, but he doesn't want to, because that depends on the mood. And to set the mood of a single person, it is such a difficult task. So here are many women, and all these women you made to hear you, to respond you. That means you have set a mood and you could able to attract their mood. How could you do this? That was the question. See, it is not a very easy task to have a big group of women to follow my instructions. It is not an easy thing. There can be many criticism, there can be many people adamant and non-hearing and oh, who is she and to teach me. This kind of things will be coming. But even then she could able to make out, mobilize many people to understand what she wants to say. That is the question there. How could you make these people respond to your thinking? It was a need. Necessity is the mother of invention. It is said. It is a very long, very, what we can say is an ancient saying. Necessity is the mother of invention. Now, need. You need something. For that, if there is a narrow or if there is a shortcut, you will be learning about it. That means need makes people learn, or need makes people to obey, to hear. So that is the first answer she has given. And now we saw the need for them to understand why we have to have good governance. Now, so it became important to give them civic education so that they could understand how we govern ourselves, why we govern ourselves the way we govern ourselves, why we are managing our environment the way we are managing it. Because we were dealing with the environment, we gave them education both in civics and also in environment. That made them understand clearly why they should take up the responsibility of protecting their environment, that it was not the responsibility of the government or the responsibility of somebody else to come and rehabilitate their environment on their own land. It is them, it is their responsibility. You see, very simply she said, what is the meaning of government or governance? If I am to set my house right, I will have to work hard for it. It is not that somebody else will be coming and he will be setting my house in order. No. Right? Even if I engage some people, even if I hire some people to set my house right, but that work is only duty-like. It will not be wholehearted setting right. So your house, you are to govern yourself. You are to gather the resources. You are to put the resources over there, and you are to make your house neat and clean. Nobody else will be doing it. That is the simple thing about governance and government. And I make my house dirty, and I ask the government come and clean it. So okay, government will do it, but in how many days, in how many months, in how many years, there is no answer for it. You want your house to set right today, you are to govern it, you are to arrange it, you are to manage it. That is what she has shown. That is, if you demand for water, right, you will be thinking that I have questioned the government to send water. She made them understand you are the government. You are not putting the demand to any other people. You are demanding it from your side. And what are you doing for that? That is what she made them understand. Government is not a separate unit. You are not a separate unit. If you have a demand from the government, you strive for it. You work hard for it. Then you will get it. So like that is, I am just spoiling the environment and the government will come and set it right. No. The garbage, if I am putting on the road, the government should come and clean it. No. Who is government? It is you. So while you are putting the garbage out, you put it in a systematic manner, and that can be systematically removed by other people. The people who remove it, they may systematically remove it, but you are not putting the garbage out in a systematic manner. You are not governing yourself. You are not managing yourself. How are you going to expect the government to put the governance or management over there? That is what she made them understand. And she taught them civics, the rights, the duties. What are your duties towards the government? We forget about it. But we demand, we have the right to be educated, we have the right to earn, we have the right to live. All the rights would come first. But what are your duties towards the government? That is what has to be taught over there. It is not, the government is not a separate unit and you are not a separate unit. You are one of the elements of the government. That way you have to think. Then everything would become easy, whether it is governance or management. So that is what she has taught to the people. First of all, the civics, how to manage civics and how to manage environment. That is what she had taught them. NHK Radio. What transformation did you see? you have taught civics, you have taught how to management, you have taught them how to know what is right and what is wrong. Okay, agreed. But what is the transformation, what is the level of transformation the women has in that? Now the women have something. What is that one? One of the bigger transformations that I saw was that ability of an ordinary illiterate woman to get to understand and to be able to plant trees that in 5 or 10 years became big trees, and she was able to cut them and be able to give herself energy. To be able to sell those trees and give herself an income, to be able to feel confident that she had done something for herself. That sense of pride, sense of dignity, and that they are not begging, that they are doing things for themselves was very empowering. That transformation was very powerful. Now, let us think about the gas cylinder. We have the gas cylinder. Every household needs it. How many cylinders? For one connection, we give 2. Very good. And yearly 9 gas cylinders will be given, and remaining on subsidy, and remaining you have to buy on full rate. How much agitation was there for it? People started shouting at the government, right? And the gas, how to use it, where to use it, and how economically it has to be used. Do we know? Question ourselves. We cannot create or we cannot generate that gas. We are to get it. Then when we are getting it, why should not we use it in a very economical manner? మా ఇంట్లో గ్యాసు 10 రోజుల కన్నా ఎక్కువ రాదు. 10 days. And what is the size of your family? Yourself, right? Your sister, your mother, your father. Must be at least 4 people, or at least one more old member will be there. 5 people. For 5 people cookery, what we are using? 1 cylinder, 10 days. Now question yourself, if every house is consuming such, how much gas is required? From where do we get it? Are we doing something to get the gas without any stoppage anywhere? No, we are not doing anything to get that gas. It is the gas we are taking up since ages 5,000 years ago. The plants and the living stock had been crushed under the earth, crushed, and that we are taking as a natural gas now. Right? We are not putting any effort to get it. Then when it is not coming, we have to use it in a very economical manner. At least that we can do it. Right? That we don't want to understand. We question the government as if we are not the government. We have to make people aware of it. If the water is not there, how to use it sparingly, that we have to teach them. It is not that we have to use them as before. That is, if there is a marriage, a foodstuff, a very good quantum of foodstuff used to be wasted. Right? Now, is the wastage curbed? I don't think it is curbed, it is stopped. No, it is still being wasted. So this wastage is more than usage. Why don't you put them in a scale and measure how much you are wasting and how much you are using? Then automatically you will be generating gas. That is what she has done. She made them aware, and that awareness had come, and they have become proud sources of this energy. She has grown the tree. In 10 years it has grown. She cut it very proudly. It is my tree. I can make use of this tree for the furniture, for the house, for the firewood, for anything. I could do it. I need not to beg. I need not to feel as if I am a thief when I am cutting some tree somewhere and when I am carrying it home. I need not to bother because it is my tree. I have grown it. That way there is a transformation in the women. Earlier they were being scolded. They were being beaten, punished. For what? when they were just picking up twigs for their stove. And now they need not to pick up, they need not to beg, they need not to depend on others. They have their own trees, they have planted them, right? And due to that plantation of trees, conservation of water is there. Water could be conserved, and that water they used to drink very with a pride, we can say. That is a thing here. So the women become what we call as a self-sufficient by themselves. They could stand on their feet. They are non-dependent. They could able to stand like that. That is the transformation. A biggest transformation she could able to bring in the women of Africa. The older is the transformation of the landscape. The other is a transformation of the landscape. Now, earlier the landscape was very eroded, dry, water content power is not there, very less. Now, plants are there, shrubs are there, herbs are there. So then the soil was not erratic, it is not going away, it is containing water even, it is not dried up, it is not dusty. That way landscape also got a good changeover. Places where there was dust, there are no more dust. Why dust comes? Because there is no plant and there is no capacity to gather it, put it together. That capacity is not there. And drying up, constant heat, drying up, thus dust comes out. Now trees are there, they are containing water, they are containing soil, so it is not a dust, it is there. So dust has come down. That means the pollution of air also had come down. There are trees, even birds and rabbits. Now if there are trees, automatically the birds increase, the animals increase, small and big, everything would come over there. They come back and they make the environment very beautiful. Yesterday I told you, it is a cobweb. Our universe is a cobweb. If at all you put a pressure on a string, it is equally distributed all over. If one of the animal is dying, then it is indirectly affecting the existence of the human being. That we have to understand, and we are trying to rehabilitate them, not ourselves. What we are doing now is we are rehabilitating ourselves. We are very selfish. And we never think that rehabilitation of the forest, rehabilitation of the animals in the forest itself is a measure or means of rehabilitation of the mankind. That we are not thinking. If the thought process, if it gets changed, we are doing much for the environment and it's saving God. There is a shade, and sometimes even dry springs come back because the water is not running. The water is going into grounds. Very profound transformation. Now, a dry winter may come, but even then it is not dried completely. The water is going down into the soil then and there. A big transformation has come when we are going for the forestation. And the other transformation that I saw was the willingness of the people to fight for their rights, to decide that they have a right to a good clean environment, to decide that they will fight for their forests, they will protect their forests, and they will not allow corrupt leaders to take their public land. Now, here just I want to put something you know about. In your last class, 9th class, we have read about the Red Indian chief Sheetal. What did he say? The earth is my mother, and in this earth itself, my forefathers, my mothers, my foremothers, everybody's, my ancestors' blood is there, sweat is there, he said. Even he asked not to spit over that. Here, she is talking about conservation, right? There he was talking about not to spit. Why? His land was asked by the white people, the government, the English people. You see, people want land, then the real occupants, the original occupants were put into their remote areas. They are being pushed, and so environment equilibrium, that is inequality, comes. It is not in balance. So that is what she put over here. If the land can contain water, we can say the environment has been restored. It is in a very good, healthy manner, we can say. And people started fighting against the foreigners who wanted the land to occupy. They themselves started, because they knew it is mine. I have to safeguard. I have saved it, nobody else. If I have saved it, I have every right to question them, to make them vacate my place. That way, she taught them, it is yours and you have to save it. You are the best fellow to take care of that. That way, that social awareness has come within them. That social awareness itself had turned to the awareness for the environment. When it has turned to awareness of environment, automatically people started forestation. That is what she wanted to put. Now again, NHK Radio questions. How do you think you can influence the rest of Africa? Now, is it the end? You have made your people aware. Is it the end? Or you want to propagate the same thing all over Africa and all over the world? That is the question. Now, our efforts will be inspire other people to stop wasting their resources, right? Resources and their youth in wars, and instead of engage in creating a peaceful environment, more peaceful states. People are there. There is no work to do, the youth. Why the youth are engaged in wars and quarrelings or argument? Why? Because they have nothing to do. A man who is engaged otherwise, he doesn't have time to attend the fighting, the argument or the exchange of words. He will not be having a time. Ample of time, and so the brain works as a devil's workshop. We should not keep that mind empty or vacate or idle. You use it in something, then it will be in a fruitful manner. The result will be good. So now, first thing, the resources should not be wasted. Second thing, the youth should not be wasted, engaging them in the wars, engaging them in some kind of revolution or some kind of revelation, and all these things we should not do. People should not become rebels. People should not revolt, and people should not fight, and they should not be engaged in fighting or abusing each other or doing something wrong. That is the youth. It has a power. Youth has a power. That should be used in a proper manner. If it is used in a proper manner, our country gets prosperity. It will. I am very happy about the fact that now in Africa you see new efforts of ensuring that Africans engage in dialogue. Leaving the war, they have come into a very peaceful manner, using the dialogue, exchanging the what we call is ideas. You see, you should not do like this, but if we do like this, it will be in a progressive manner. That way people started exchanging, or people started just honoring others' thoughts. And I am very happy people started in this flow. That they invest the peaceful negotiation for conflicts, that we manage our environment. Very peacefully they started talking to each other, exchanging their ideas, and if there is a dispute, they wanted to put the dispute to end by means of peaceful talks. That is the great change I could able to put within these people. No conflicts were there. We must restore our environment and try to ensure that we do not fight because we are allowing the environment, especially the land, to be degraded. And then we fight over agricultural land and grazing lands. Why the fight comes? Because I find this land is not fertile anymore. Why it is not fertile anymore? Because I am not giving any attention to it. Simply I am putting one crop after the other, one crop after the other. I am not changing it also. For example, I will tell you, there was a period, there was some decades, I can say. During that period, Maharashtra, all the farmers, they started growing this sugar cane. Right? That means crop after crop, they started growing sugar cane. What would happen to the land over there? And some period has come when the lands they have become adamant to grow sugar cane. That means as if the earth said, I cannot bear the sugar cane. They could not get good result on that. And again, the what we call as our onion. This Nasik region is the fertile land for onion. Agreed. But how many crops of that onion we have to grow? That is not restricted over there. Then onion has been grown and it is abundant. What is to be done? Throw. Because it could not be removed before the rains come and they could not be stored, right? And because the price has not come for it, then throw it. So this circumstances should not arise. And even for the milk, I have seen, I have witnessed the milk grown from the milkmen, it has been thrown on the road. Why? The supportive price is not there. You see, what an insult we are giving it to the land and the cow. That way we have to feel. If at all a single drop of milk is fallen here, then you should understand it is an insult for the cow. And if at all one onion, if it is thrown, you should understand it is an insult to the motherland. And if motherland could not give some crop, it does not mean I will be putting some chemicals into it. We have to feel, yes, my mother farm is somewhat diseased. I'll have to put some medicines to it or give rest to it. Because if continuously if I am writing with this hand, at some time I am getting pain, then what is to be done? Cut the hand. No, I'll have to give rest to this hand so that once again I can start writing. So that rehabilitation is not there in the land or to anything from where we are getting goods. That we have to see first. So here African people have become more educated by means of thinking. Yes, this dispute can be addressed with the amicable talks. And again, second thing, I should not change this land because it is not growing the necessary crop. No. You can come back again, or you can do something, or you can leave it for some time. Give rest to this land. That way the understanding has come into the people. If not, it is not growing, so leave it, go there. It is not growing, leave it, go there. If at all you are going, so every people are in search of the same kind of a fertile land. If at all they are in search, and one piece of fertile land may become a dispute between 2 or between 15 people, and there were wars. That they have stopped. Then existing land can be revived, it can be repaired, it can be once again used. That way people try to understand. That is the first change which she could able to bring in the people there. I see a lot of hope in what is happening in Somalia, what is happening in Sudan, what is happening in West Africa. I see a lot of African leaders encouraging each other to engage in a dialogue. Somalia, in about 2 to 3 decades back, Somalia, the children were dying because of malnutrition. food was not there. They have been picturized, they have been shown in your TVs, right? Now, if you hear about Somalia, you are not getting that poverty picture over there. Why? People have started thinking in a different manner. Who? The leaders of that place. What is the thing? The land which they possess is very fertile, and we have to make use of this to cultivate. That way, a change of thought has come into them. Not only that, a capacity of understanding each other. This leader and that leader both were having a capacity to understand each other. I have this, I want in exchange, I want this. That way they started to help each other. And even the land, even the crop, and even the forest, everything, they started using in a distributed manner. So now there is no poverty. There is a change. That is what I could able to see. NHK Radio. What is the one thing we can do? Now, lastly, I want to question now. What is the one thing we can do for all the people? For me, my greatest activity is to plant a tree. You see, nothing much is required. Every man, they should decide, I will plant a tree. I will grow it. Whatever mangoes we are eating now, it is not the tree which I have put it, which I have planted it, no, which I have grown it, no. Then must be my father's time people, they had grown it. Okay, and it is my duty to see that one more tree or the mango should be grown, one more tree or the coconut should be grown. Why? The other generations which are coming after me, they should enjoy what is a mango, they should eat, they should know what is a coconut. If not, a day comes, only the pictures remain. This used to be there when your great grandfathers were there. What is this? This is a mango. It should have been in the yellow color. That way, as if it is a very, 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 very past thing. We have to teach the children about them. Right? So let that day not come. As a duty, let us plant a tree. I think that a tree is a wonderful symbol for the environment. And when we plant a tree, we plant hope. What is the hope? My children may enjoy this, may enjoy, that is the hope. Will enjoy is not hope. My children may enjoy the fruits of this tree which I am growing now. That is the hope I am growing, not the tree. And next, and when we plant a tree, we plant hope. We plant the future for ourselves, for our children, for our birds. We plant something that will last long after we are gone. We may be here today. We may not be here tomorrow. But we have to strive for the tomorrow, coming tomorrow. People should understand, yes, such and such person was there here. And say, suppose you are getting a 10 out of 10. For years, your school authorities will be talking about you. That is your contribution for here, for tomorrow. That way you have to think about. You have to plan. You have to leave a hope. Yes, such and such student could able to do 10 out of 10. Means remaining every people will be taking a cue on that. Yes, he could do it, why not me? Plant a tree means what? Virtually go and put a tree over there. If you are doing it, well and good. But in your capacity, what you are doing, you are showing something for the progress of the human beings. In your capacity, you are showing it. Right? So that is a lesson it has been taught over here. And the very same thing, our Red Indian chief of America, he taught us in our last class, class 9th. What is the term? This Mother Earth is yours. Save it. Even he said, don't spit on the earth. If at all you are thinking you are spitting on the earth, you feel that your great grandfathers, right, they are there and on their face you are spitting. That way he said. he was a very, what we call as a very attached to the land in which they were. But we people, we feel that we are civilized, no? And so we want their land, no? We occupy them. And what are we doing? We are driving them into remote places. Whether it is the animals or the human beings, whatsoever, we are throwing them into remote. And then what are we doing? We are modernizing ourselves here on this land. In that process, what we are doing? We are evaporating all the resources that this earth could give us. And still we are thinking we are lacking of resources. It is not that you are wasting the resources, you are thinking, in other words, that is what? We are lacking of our resources. Resources are there in ample, abundant in the earth. Try to make use of it and try to put them in a good use, don't waste them. That is the lesson here.